As 2020 draws to a close, I want to draw attention to something that I think is crucially important to note about the year 2020, and that is the overall misery index. Now, to say that there was the misery index was at a high, or that the happiness index, generally speaking, was at a low, this would not surprise many people, given the miserable year that it's been. But I think there's something within that fact of the widespread misery, or the what I'm calling the misery index, which I have to say I'm just guessing is out there. I'm guessing that if you surveyed people and gave them a truth serum, because surveys, people will only report what they want to report about themselves. So there's a limited degree of usefulness to surveys about people's state of mental health or their state of happiness or whatever. But if you put them in Wonder Woman's lasso, which makes you tell the truth, right? You lassoed them and asked them all about how happy they've been this past year. I'm guessing that the happiness index would be at a low, and the misery index would be at a high. This goes not just for people like you and me, people like me, and people like those of whom I believe watch this channel and are drawn to its content. But this goes as well for the COVID Karens and Keiths, because it's definitely not limited to women. The people who chase you around and say, "Why aren't you wearing a mask? You're killing people. You're killing my grandmother, you bastard." They're obviously not happy. Their behavior displays their unhappiness, and I think it's easy to gloss over that, because we kind of think, oh well, they're loving this. They are loving. They're these natural born authoritarians. These hall monitors for life, who have just embraced this new zeitgeist of top down, lecturing and guilt tripping and shaming for things like masking and other aspects related to everything surrounding this so-called global pandemic. But are they really happy? Are they happy? I don't think they are. And this seems like a paradox, because they're getting to do what something in them really loves to do, but it's not making them happy, is it? Do they seem like happy people? Think of the COVID Karen or Keith that you know best, or that the kind of person who you have seen engaging in this kind of behavior or engaging in this kind of rhetoric. They seem. I'm tempted to say that people like this are more miserable than most. Same goes for the burners of buildings, and the looters, and the statue puller downers, and the agitators, who we've seen manifest themselves this year. We might think, oh yeah, they're happy, they're full of self-righteousness or righteous indignation at the evils that they see in the straight white patriarchy or whatever, and they're taking so much delight in doing the things that they're doing. But Look at the mugshots of people arrested in Portland with purple hair, just to use that stereotype, or whatever. Just think of these people that we call SJWs in general. Think of, online agitators, participants in cancel culture, and so forth. Are people like that happy? Have they been happy this past year? Again, we're confronted with a paradox, because one would think, oh yeah, these people, they're in their element. They're getting to do this year. They've gotten to engage in wanton destruction and call it righteous. To a degree that one has seldom seen, even in the last few years, where this kind of iconoclastic behavior, iconoclastic towards Western traditions and so forth, has been more and more encouraged by our corporate overlords. Easy for me to say, but look at their faces, look in their eyes. Are they enjoying themselves? Has 2020 really been good to them? Again, I'm tempted to say people like that are more miserable than people like you and me. So who has been enjoying 2020? I know that there are exceptions to the rules, and those exceptions might be, the kind of people who are running the show, the kind of people whose psychopathy is so full and so all-consuming that I don't know. I don't even know what happiness would mean to people like them. To the overlords, the true overlords. The kind of people who engage in unspeakable acts. Against the innocent, to gain more power. Are people like that? Does happiness have a meaning for people like that? People who are who only take delight in destruction and in causing misery and plotting out the genocide of much of the human population. For people like that, who I hesitate to even call them human, although they might be human, and they're probably human DNA wise. For people like that, I think happiness is just absolutely beside the point, because these are people who are incapable of empathy, incapable of love, incapable of feeling connectedness to others, except the sort of twisted bond that they have with one another, with those of their own kind. And even there, it's like the bond they have with those of their own kind. One thinks of, for example, C.S. Lewis's book, The Screwtape Letters, and the economy of hell, how the demons relate to one another in hell. One demon is writing another letter saying, I am your affectionate uncle, and he's calling him my dear Wormwood. So he's calling him dear and expressing affection for him, but what that affection boils down to is that he aches to consume him, his fellow demonic minion. And this is what hell is. There's no love. It's just all about the strong consuming the weak, and just this everything being the entire enterprise just being kept alive by fear of being consumed, or by the desire to rise through the ranks so that you can be the one doing the consuming. So I would say for people like that, who I strongly suspect are running the show, pulling the strings, making the kind of things that we've seen happen in 2020, for them, you can barely speak of happiness at all, because they just don't exist in that realm. In order to be happy, one must embrace things like empathy and love and understanding and family, right? And they have a family, they have their own sort of family, but it doesn't operate the way that we typically think of family, when it's not dysfunctional. Family when it's healthy, family when it's permeated with love, and permeated with empathy and understanding, the same way we think of friendship or other forms of human affection, romantic love, whatever it is, whatever manifestation it takes. So I suppose the point that I'm trying to make here, and it's like in a way I'm trying to point out something that I think it's easy to miss, because we think of how miserable we are. We think of how miserable this year has made us. And hopefully that I know that there are exceptions. When I say, everyone or all, of course I'm being hyperbolic. I'm sure there are people who are fine this year. And children, I think, are especially resilient, regardless of what's going on in the world. They find a way to just, to just do their thing. And they have their, there was a book titled A Separate Peace that I remember reading several years ago. Good book. And the children are good at in their own way, just forging out a separate peace, regardless of what's happening around them, regardless of the chaos and the hate and the rage and the horror and the awfulness. But just to keep things in perspective, if you're tempted to say, oh well, look at these terrible people who have been empowered this year. Well, look a little closer at these terrible people, whether they're the COVID Gestapo, or whether they're the burn, loot, murder people, or the Antifa degenerate thugs and whatnot, and ask yourself, how happy are they? They're supposedly getting their way right now. They've been getting their way this year, but they are miserable. And it's not hard. You have to be pretty daft to miss it. These are miserable people. These are people who are causing misery because they are miserable. So keep that in mind for whatever it's worth when you think about this year 2020. You're not happy. I'm not happy, because of the misery that we've endured over this past year. But neither are those we think of as the villains of 2020. They're not happy either. one suspects that when things get better, as they will eventually, that it will be a happier time for everyone, including those who think they're getting their way right now, but who are really just treading their own sure path of misery on their way to hell. I was going to say hopefully, but I don't want to end on that note. We should pray for them more than anybody else, because they are the ones who are in the most danger, spiritually speaking, if you believe in that sort of thing. So thanks for watching. Just wanted to share a few thoughts that maybe you haven't thought of with regard to 2020, which is coming to an end. Let me know what you think. My name is Andy Nowicki. You can check out my work at altrightnovelist.com.